Okay, well, thank you very much for the other speakers that we've been listening to. I mean, I found it really interesting. And also thank you to my interpreter who's done a fantastic job for me. I have been living here for quite a long time, so my Polish should be a lot better than it is. I do understand bits and pieces, but not enough. I'm going to speak to you a little bit about English for academic purposes and EMI. English is a medium of instruction. And I've titled this Higher Education Perspectives for Poland. I think I'd start off by showing you a photograph which I took when I was teaching in Manchester just last month actually. And all these students are very, very happy because they've just completed a pre-sessional course. Very happy, especially having me as their teacher, I don't think, but nevertheless they enjoyed the course very, very much. Basically, if I can give you a few statistics about that, altogether, for what we call the pre-sessional 5 course, there were 47 groups of 16 students. Each student, when I say the students, that 95% of these students were Chinese students. And these students are each paying £2,500 to £3,000, not zlotys, pounds. So, you know, that got me thinking, you know, why doesn't Poland get a slice of that market? Why shouldn't it have a slice of that market? I don't see why these students shouldn't be as happy in Poland as in the UK. So, basically, what I want to talk about is that I see EMI, or English as a Medium of Instruction, and EAP as instrumental in helping Poland to gain a kind of foothold in this market. And I think it also has important consequences within Polish higher education itself. But just before I begin, I think you should, you know, have a look at one or two definitions there. So EMI, I mean, this is a very, very simplified definition, but I've written here the use of English to teach content, in our context, content in higher education. And I see this as the use of language in itself, the use of language as an end in itself. So it's not a means to get somewhere, but it's actually being used as an end kind of product. Whereas EAP is slightly different, as most of you will know, it's teaching English in a specific context of academia, but it's a means to an end. So English is an instrument through which the student will then acquire content knowledge. And obviously a prerequisite for students who wish to gain a degree in English. So the objective of this talk is to highlight the relevance of EAP and in the context of Polish higher education, to share some insights I gained via training lectures for EMI and from my experience of teaching EAP, and to suggest some conclusions regarding EMI and EAP, and with a longer-term need, perhaps, to integrate EMI and EAP into Polish higher education. I have some questions to ask. Some of these questions are just rhetorical. You are the experts in the higher education field. Why EMI and EAP? What can EMI and EAP offer Polish higher education? How can EMI and EAP be integrated into Polish higher education? And how can foreign students be attracted to Poland? Why should they come here? I think the first question, why EMI and EAP? Well, as I said earlier, because I see these as a vehicle to enable Polish universities to gain a foothold in this market. But as I will show you later, I think EMI has other advantages as well. I think EMI and EIP, what can it offer Polish higher education? Well, I think the process has already started in that, you know, many universities here do offer English degree courses, English language degree courses, I should say. But I would question whether it's gone far enough yet. And especially with EAP, from my experience of working at some Polish universities from time to time through British Council academic teaching English courses, I think they could go a lot further For example, one university I worked at said that actually our foreign students do not produce any written assessment. They just do multiple choice questions in order to get their degree, which struck me as a little bit strange in the academic world, that they're not required to produce any writing. Okay, so moving on. Some quotations and statistics. I'm going the wrong way again. Yeah. These quotations are taken from a very good article which I will send on through through this conference by Julie Dearden, who actually commissioned a study on English as a medium of instruction, and this was produced in 2014, and I've taken some quotations from that just to illustrate some points. So, as you can see, the first quotation concerns Turkey and Kazakhstan. So, for both these countries, the objective of EMI was to increase the number of international students. The Turkish respondent explained that the government, or an agency of the government, aims to increase the number of overseas students dramatically over the next few years. I just wonder whether the Polish government has got a similar kind of agenda, whether there is a deliberate aim to really encourage more students to come here. The next one, policymakers consider EMI as a mechanism for internationalising their education offer, creating opportunities for students to join a global academic and business community. They see EMI as a way of rapidly increasing international mobility. What I would stress there is to look at some of the collocations there. You know, we can see that EMI is very much of the future. So internationalising their education offer, creating opportunities for students, global academic and business communities. And I think Poland needs to embrace that, from my observations, just a little bit more really, so as it can realise the huge opportunities which I feel are out there. And this quotation, again from the same source, it's reported that administrators of universities consider EMI an attractive proposition for many reasons, including promotion, globalisation and financial survival. And then you've got a comment by an administrator. So you can see the importance from the university's point of view regarding the financial implications of taking more of EMI and indeed EAP on and offering it as a good alternative for what they already offer. Okay, so the next quotation is obviously more of the kind of financial implications, but also the key message in the last sentence is prestige. So more prestige for Polish universities. You know, when sometimes in the UK, statistics are released showing the a worldwide league table of universities, and I think I have to get down to number 300 and something for a Polish university to be mentioned. And I don't think that is the fault of the Polish university. I think, you know, it's because they lack prestige in the international scale, you know. And I think that I think by offering more courses with English as a content, I think that would help with that problem of prestige. I've got no doubt that Polish universities basically are the same as UK universities. It's just that they don't get the same kind of exposure internationally. Okay, and I think the final quotation, so in the study, 72% of respondents answered that in their country universities admitted international students. However, the numbers were neither substantial nor even negligible. So I think the suggestion is here that more could be done to encourage university students to study in English. Okay, if I move on now to look at a more practical kind of aspect of it. So here we're looking at English as a medium of instruction in action. I've been involved both with the University of Oxford and the British Council in offering, as I alluded to earlier, something called Academic Teaching Excellence. And this is a course which aims to enhance the quality of lecturers when they need to lecture in English. So you see the aim there. The outcome would be a far more competent delivery of the content in English. Lecturers would also have a raised awareness of student difficulties when facing a lecture in a second language. And the result would be the provision of courses which offer a higher standard of tertiary education. I'm not denigrating what Poland has at the moment, obviously. I'm just looking at ways to supplement what you already have. Okay, so one part of the British Council University Oxford Academic Teaching Excellence course is enhancing lecturers' skills. And we look at 4 kind of aspects of this. So better interaction in lectures. I noticed that from my experience of attending lectures in Polish, present company accepted of course, that there's insufficient interaction with the audience. Whereas when I was working in the UK, all of my students have to attend a lecture, not necessarily in their own subject speciality. For example, I had engineering students, but we attended lectures connected with society and with legal cases. But the lecturers really made everything really interesting because they interacted very effectively with the audience. To the point when, 1 or 2 students in front of me were playing with their mobile phones and the lecturer stopped and pointed at the student and said, "Oi, stop playing with those mobile phones." So sometimes it can have kind of quite startling consequences. But generally speaking, a move to kind of interact better by asking questions, by setting little kind of puzzles within the lecture, and it's all entirely possible, or getting students to work in groups to do things. Another focus is on improving grammar and vocabulary skills in the way that those grammar and vocabulary skills are delivered, so to ensure that when an explanation is given of something, that it is done in a more simplified, plain English form, rather than using too much technical language. And then, of course, improvements in the way of presentation skills, so, avoiding just reading documents head down all the time, and also using signaling language, as 1 or 2 of my fellow presenters just said, using meta language, false starts and such things like this in lectures. This really helps students to develop their listening skills. Finally, pronunciation, which is often an overlooked part in lectures, but again, very important, because lecturers obviously need to slow down a little bit, especially when they're lecturing in a foreign language. Sometimes, because of the speed at which they speak, some students whose language skills might not be so advanced might struggle to keep up and lose the message. And obviously with pronunciation aspects connected with speaking clearly, interest, intonation, and pausing and pacing accordingly. And we found that at the end of the course, lecturers have really found a big difference in the way they're able to present their course material. Just looking at EAP this time, English for Academic Purposes in action. Well, just very simply, again, a very personal anecdote from my recent stay in Manchester. I don't know if you can see the picture so well. The good-looking picture on the right is me. On the left is another very nice guy. This is Yang, who's from China, and he came over all the way to Manchester to do the pre-sessional course, but had a very low IELTS score. And he needed to improve his IELTS score by 1 and 1.5 marks in order to make the course. And he was really worried about whether he would make the grade. Very much low confidence. But over the course, he really developed his skills. I mean, this was a very intensive English for academic purposes course. That together, the good input that he received together with his determination meant that he made the grade, and his confidence, as you can see in this end of picture, you know, he's really smiling, really happy. It was difficult to get a smile out of him in the first 2 or 3 days. So EAP, I would suggest, by giving this on a pre-sessional basis or even an in-sessional basis to students, can provide or can give huge benefits for students, both from an educational point of view and from a psychological point of view. The two go together when it comes to studies. So some tentative conclusions. As I say, you are the experts, how you take it, I don't know, but EMI and EAP are, as a fact, are permanent parts of the global academic landscape. They're here to stay, and I think it's up to Poland how you grasp, how it's grasped. I think more, as I say, I think more could be done in order to enhance the quality. EAP, I think, is relatively untouched. It does exist, I think, in some ways, but I think more could be done. I don't honestly see the reason why pre-sessional courses can't be offered during the summer for incoming students, or even for home students, for Polish students. I'm not suggesting that you can get the same numbers as you would get in the UK. It's very different, and things start off slowly, but you know, I think it could be done. I think Poland needs to keep abreast of the opportunities that EMI and EAP offer. We've already heard talk of Brexit. So, you know, what opportunities does this offer to Poland? You know, I would argue it does offer a lot of opportunities. EMI and EAP is something for all stakeholders, whether they're students, lecturers, administrators or parents, etc. There's something there for all. Everybody wins with it. And I think EMI and EAP carries benefits not only for the institution of foreign students, but home students as well. You know, think about the Polish student who not only gets his degree at Warsaw or in Krakow or Wrocław, wherever, but he or she's got his degree or her degree in using English. That makes a huge difference, and it opens up so many opportunities for that home student. By home, I mean a Polish student, of course. And of course, finally, increased prestige for the university in a globally competitive environment. And you know, I think Poland could compete more effectively than it does at the moment. You are competing, but I think maybe a little bit more. Okay, I've come to the end now. Just to highlight the publication I was talking about. It's by Julie Dearden, English as a Medium of Instruction, a growing global phenomenon. We'll make sure that can be relayed to you.
It's available for free. You can download it from our Teaching English website. So if you go to teachingenglish.org, you can download it.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you from me.